The Journey Through a Distant Land, The Metaphysical Articles of the Individuality, Volume 1, Article 1.3, The Invisible World. Reading 6. This invisible world that I am about to convey to you is not a foreign world at all to you, my dear readers. This world is a world you have been living in all of your life. You may be shocked at this concept and might be having questions about this world. Your mind is unable to fathom these realities, at least for right now. To elaborate on this junction, I feel it is necessary that we converse, if you will, on the physical existence of this plane, at least to a small degree. Mankind is born in this world at their first point of contact or entry into this world, very dependent on their outside environment. If the environment is not favorable with the necessary essentials for survival, for instance, like someone to care for it, some safe environment that has food, water, etc., the human biological organism will cease to exist. Contrary to popular belief, the earth was not originally formed to give its substance to mankind. Mankind was designed to give to it, to tend to it, and to subdue the earth. Man was to add a beauty, a creative, unique form, according to that particular manifestation that the true self vouchsafes to each person's individuality. This reversal stemmed from the consumption of the knowledge of good and of evil, the new hidden modus operandi that was in the midst of spiritual consciousness. Now, as a result of this retroverted systematization, this new human being will grow up and learn from the people it engages with, and all the people in its immediate environment, in its direct field of contact that are older in years and experience. This being the case, the human being now grows up with knowledge passed down from other people that are mixed with some error, evil, and some truth, divine good, contrary to Telluric good. Now, if the person around it only possesses a knowledge of the mundane world, people who are not conscious of their invisible selves, this would be its education. This would be what it has faith in, and this would be also the only way it knows how to receive knowledge, which is then presented only through what can be observed and measured through the 5 physical senses. Before we move any further to explain the nature of the false personality, we will now present more conversational transparency. We will tell you in more details about the nature of the true self. Elohim, which is the true self itself, is the image of the first principle, the Creator. The Creator, in its highest level of existence, cannot be seen or understood in no shape or fashion by any created mind, angel nor man, especially the carnal mind, the mind that has not evolved into that spiritual, which is that of holy thoughts, the thought devoid of selfish intent. The divine creator at this level of existence cannot even be understood by any spiritual mind for that matter, because the almighty creator in this wise is inscrutable and incomprehensible, and nothing that exists can perceive the holy creator on this unimaginable throne of glory. He is the power of the universe, and nothing made can have existence without him who is the only power. The loving creator, from his own divine intelligence, understood his own nature, so he created in himself an image, a form. This new image that the inscrutable creator created in himself can be perceived only in the mind that has formed itself into that nature of this image, by asking and sacrificing all the different forms of the mundane existence that have been lodged in the mind and heart by the manipulation of the negative light and the misconceptions that have been employed by the first created being, aka Satan. This holy image is the image of the true self, the divine word of power. This image is built in the likeness of and with all of the concepts of mankind with thoughts, feelings, and actions of mankind, but they are divine and wholly beyond the comprehension of created man. In the above article, it is said that we would elaborate on some of the aspects of the false personality. This articulation would hurt and offend some, if not all. The reason this is so is because to make this simple and straight to the point, we will have to use the sword. The sword is truth in its very raw form without a filter. It is devoid from most of the spiritual polytechnical jargon. Even the basic instructions before leaving Earth has filters and is gradually presented from the beginning to the end. It is designed to lessen the shock to one's mind. Now, brace yourselves for these examples, because at the end of this, you will be very angry with me. You will first have thoughts of justification in your thinking apparatus. Then you will have judgments against me. I will appear to you as the biggest hypocrite you ever encountered. You will immediately think that I am doing the same things. You will be thinking that I am judging you. I will not at this time defend myself, nor will I entertain those thoughts that you will be beginning to hear in your mind after what is said. Now, that's out the way. Let's move into this very uncomfortable notion. The false personality is that thing you were not born with from birth. You have accumulated and formed it from the world, from people around you. It is thought to be you, but I can assure you that it is not. This false personality is the ego, and it caters towards and is made for mundane existence. This ego, the false personality, steals the glory from the Father in all things. As a matter of fact, it extirpates and discards the very existence of the true self. It, the ego, will credit all things to itself. Take a look at these characteristics. The false personality will say and behave like these examples. Let's just say you have a man walking in the park. He sees flowers and stops to smell them. This seems innocent. You may even say, well, he just simply wants to smell the flowers. You may say that he loves how flowers smell. But what you don't see is that this man has developed in himself a habit, an image that he lives up to. This is something he consciously prepared for the outside environment. This man sees that other people are gathered in the park and that they have the possibility to look at him. So he displays this illusionary behavior to give an appearance of being elegant and to be perceived by the people as being a peaceful man. This is done so he can produce this image to others, to be received as thus, and to have this reputation. If there was nobody there, he would just have walked by without even looking at the flowers. Next, we have a man who plays sports. He practices every day. Now, he's a master in his craft and is better than other players. He has incorporated abilities and has yoked himself with negative forces that seeks his ruin. This man doesn't see this because of his ambitions to be the best in his craft. So they give him these skills to keep him off his true path, to manifest his authority over these beings. When asked about his craft, he speaks proudly and boasts about how great he is. And he wants everyone to know. He says harsh things about other players to undercut them, to embarrass them, in order to make himself grander and more superior in the eyes of the rest of the people. The next example we will look at is a man that has the capacity and the desire to learn the mundane knowledge, one who has learned all earth-based knowledge. This one will walk and talk extravagantly and rise above everyone that is not as learned as him. He will have many riches, for with this focus of mind power directed towards the earth, this plight produces earthly riches. This kind of man gets his earthly glory by showing off his knowledge and using it to rule and draw people to himself. This man will use his knowledge to put himself in major positions in the world of commerce for his own selfish intent to further the anti-life agenda. of trying to suppress the true self-will, of bringing higher states of life on earth. The last illustration we will speak on is the man or woman who believes that they are very physically attractive. They hear whispers in their mind via thoughts of their own reasoning, and also from the same types of thoughts speaking through other people around them. Thoughts that seems to magnify their own feeling of vanity, an invisible force emanating adoration from others of how much more beautiful he or she is compared to what the world calls the common people. These people will be very vain and use their beauty to manipulate others to do what they wilt. These people will also crush the spirits of what is called the common people by taking away from these common people their mates whom they love, by lowering them to themselves by using their outward beauty, causing great pain in the lives of these people. The false personality has all pride, all haughtiness, all vanities, and all selfishness attached to it. If a man or woman demonstrates any of these attributes, they are in direct contact with and are living as an image of Satan, which is the false personality. There are no internal justifications that could be used to defend oneself or override the eternal divine guaranteed punishment for these type of behaviors. These are just brief illustrations of the false personality, the beast, the ego of man. By now, the thoughts of justifications should have passed through your thinking apparatus, along with great judgmental and angry words towards what was said. Since these words came from my mouth that I temporarily possess, that were vouchsafed to me, you might have something against me. But do not fear. This is all right. This is all normal reactions from the false personality. Those negative thoughts should verify to you the existence of the false personality. To reiterate, now that we have given you the base ideal regarding some of the main concepts needed to awaken oneself, and we have also presented ideals which pertains to the physical biological organism that are dwelling in the mundane thought patterns, we come to know that these things can only benefit the body. We have given you some harsh examples of the false personality. Now, we can create an aperture in the glorious form of man that is invisible and abstract. The true man is mind consciousness, made of thought, which is invisible to physical sight, and emotions that are also invisible to physical sight. This is the real man. The outer man is that machine image that was formed to give the man a field of action as a vehicle, if you will, to act out his thoughts, which are his inner contemplations. Mankind acts out through this terrene vehicle all that they think and feel. For a simple example, if a man sees a cup and picks it up, it is because he has already picked up the cup in his mind first. He thought about picking up the cup in his mind. The action was perceived in the mind first. Then, with the will that was vouchsafed to him, his desire to pick up the cup, he commanded his body to act out that which already took place in the realm of thought. This simple example is true with everything that is physically acted out in this realm of time and space. Therefore, mankind lives more in this invisible world than the mundane. You may at this time be wondering how this is so. This is so because every thought, every emotion is activated first in this invisible, spiritual, eternal realm. Mankind is moving first in the spiritual world before they act out in the physical or the earthly world. I am about to reveal an important perception. If a person is not conscious of this eternal world, then that person will be running on automatic drive. What we mean by this is that that person does not take up their proper position in this inner world. Each person, by default, will automatically be controlled by the false personality that's made up of fallen thoughts. These thoughts will be controlling the person from within. From the person being unconscious and asleep, in so doing, The fallen thoughts will be living their life within the human body and representing that person in the world. Therefore, anyone who come into contact with this human body that the fallen thoughts have taken over will think that those entities are the person themselves, never seeing a true person at all, which is that inner attention span that should be awake and able to observe those thoughts and emotions in that fleshly temple or body. I did not mean to reveal this notion in this book. It must have been important for us to say this. Just think on this statement and see what comes of it. A wonder may appear in your mind. Nevertheless, each one of us has been granted the ability to have control over this inner world from the true self, who is the creator of all things, the divine word of power. Now, I ask a question. How can one gain control over this inner world in man? The very first thing that has to be done is to awaken the conscious being in oneself. The person needs to be awakened. Natural man has no idea of this inner world. Each have, if not entirely, live his or her whole life totally amused, totally conscious of the outer world, the world of matter, the world of the mundane. Each human being's attention and focus has been active only in the carnal existence. Mankind seems not to care, or does not know nor believe that this inner invisible world is real, just as real, even more real and more permanent than this outer world. The basic instructions before leaving Earth, from the very beginning of the first chapter, conveyed to mankind the realities of these things. It has articulated to us not only the nature, but the order, the powers, and the origin of this eternal invisible world, as to not have us ignorant. Running adjacent to this junction is the fact that of the divine axiom and invisible ancient beings that are unseen by the naked physical eyes of mankind's biological organism, evil forces that are suppressing mankind from either awakening or becoming conscious of this eternal world. Maybe later it will be permitted for us to elaborate in more details on the exact identity of these invisible unseen forces. But as for now, back to the foregoing. Mankind receives thoughts in the upper region of his extremity. Each human being has no control, for the most part, of the thoughts that enters one's mind. This reverts back to what was mentioned above, which is the proper place mankind must, if they know what's good for them in the universe, engage in while living in this eternal world. Mankind must utilize the gift that was handed to us, which alone can make us free. The gift that causes one to be a free agent, not a slave, but a co-creator with the true self-creator. This gift which we speak about is the freedom of choice. End of reading 6.